Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to About Sustainability. This is the sixth installment of our series on the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. And today, it's all about water. I'm Erin, and I'm joined by one of our co-hosts, Bob, and our guest, Binaya Raj Shivakoti. He's a senior policy researcher specializing in water and adaptation at our organization, the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, or IGES. The complete title for SDG6 is Ensure Availability and Sustainable Management of Water and Sanitation for All. Water and sanitation were featured in one target of Millennium Development Goal 7 on ensuring environmental sustainability, but the issue has since been elevated to its very own goal under the SDGs. Just to very broadly clarify some terms, the focus on water here is on water supply for human use, while sanitation is about waste management, including sewage disposal. SDG 6 has targets on the universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene for all. But it also has targets on improving water quality and water use efficiency, implementing integrated water resource management, protecting and restoring water-related ecosystems, fostering international cooperation, and involving local communities in water and sanitation management. During this conversation, we talked about water being fundamental to all aspects of life and what life can be like for communities without access to these basic needs. I also personally encountered the term fossil groundwater for the very first time, and that was pretty interesting. We then explored Integrated Water Resource Management, IWRM, which Binaya argued is a natural starting point to implementing the SDGs. This might be a topic that many of us, especially those living in the global north, are lucky enough to take for granted. But our conversation illuminated for me how critical it is for us to meet this challenge and ensure this human right for everyone, everywhere. I know that you've worked on water-related issues over your career, but what is the most important or interesting aspect of SDG 6 to you?
Okay, thank you, Erin. Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to talk today about this SDG6 and having worked almost more than a decade in water sector and closely watching for a while, and it's really interesting for me to have a chance to talk this. So I think when I talk about interesting aspect of SDG, let me just go back in the period when this SDG6 was formulated. And in the previously, you must be aware about MDG. There was mainly two aspects, drinking water and sanitation. And
MDG is Millennium Development Goals, right?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Exactly. And in that time, but water is a very huge area, and a water community, as we say, are so much concerned that when SDG came, we should not just concentrate on sanitation and drinking water only. We have to incorporate everything. And there was also a bit of competition that we were not sure whether there will be a water goal or not. So a lot of effort was spent to have a standalone water goal.
Okay, so why is that important to have like a standalone water goal?
Yeah, that's the main part is like water touches everything. That's one aspect. As a part of the biosphere, water is kind of saying like it's alive, yeah? So if you imagine like going in the Mars or moon, when you see the astronauts, what they are looking first, explorer, they are looking for a bit of water, yeah?
Right.
When there's water, there's life, so that's everything then could be started. So, but the point is like what is abundant is usually we take it for granted. So the biosphere we are talking, we have air, we have vegetation, we have a lot of things and which supports us, but it's so easily available that we often take for granted. And because of that, that's one reason why we need a water goal. And most interesting thing for SDG6 for me is like its comprehensiveness. So if you see the goals, you will find everything, almost everything. except the disaster issue, which has been actually touched by another goal, I think. So that means with disaster, all aspect of, and also that water is there, but it's more about ocean. So almost everything is touched by SDG6. So that's a very interesting development. And it also, the one thing is like it consolidated, since it consolidated everything, the expectation was, okay, yes, SDG6 could be one of the very good approach or framework to progress on to address water management issue in a more integrated manner.
The disaster is covered elsewhere. That means like flood risk and sea level rise. What do you mean by disaster?
Okay, water and disaster are very highly connected. So if you say climate change impact, the climate change manifests through water. Like you have been seeing a lot of flooding even in Japan every year.
Sure.
So, and that aspect is not explicitly mentioned in the water targets.
Gotcha. Thanks.
I see. So you said just now that, water is life, right? And it is fundamental. So are we on track to achieving SDG 6? I mean, surely if everybody thinks it's so important, then, this should be the number one priority, right?
So achieving SDG 6, I think we have to a little bit, rather than saying, okay, we are in track or not track, we have to a little bit see the little bit deeper, try to dig deeper. So first, if you say itself as a main topics, like if we see the developing country like a divide. So even if you see all the SDGs, what you will find that it is still most of the targets, goals and targets are still concentrated on the countries, developing countries or less developed countries, where they are struggling with the sustainability issue. And this is not a very big issue, or a country like Japan or US or even China, it's not a big issue. So from those country perspective, it's more or less kind of on track, already on track, maybe, especially on drinking water and sanitation, which is still a big problem in a developing country. And then statistics shows that we are not in track in achieving water goal.
Okay.
So, for example, the UN water estimates says that it has a very good facts and figure. It says like 2.3 billion people living in water-stressed country. So you can imagine.
Wow.
So the most of our agriculture area where a lot of people in developing countries are dependent. So they are also facing very high water shortage or water scarcity. So that means there is another issue, and drinking water and sanitation, in particular, if you talk about Southeast Asia type of region, so the figure is not so good. So if we say like global status, only 74% of the population uses safely managed drinking water, and only 54% about the safely managed sanitation. And if we see this, disaggregate it into, and majority of it is on developing countries like India, Nepal, and Cambodia. So these are the countries. So it's a long-term issue. I mean, the main reason MDG came was water and sanitation was because of this drinking water and sanitation, a lot of health issue was there.
Right.
So, and it was a kind of a very big development priority. So that's the kind of like in terms of when we say whether we are on track or not track. I think eventually, I think it will take time. I think, I don't know how long it will take, but slowly but surely, I think we will approach to meeting some key targets. But there are other issues that we are a little bit worried. It's something like water quality. So so once you use, I mean, sanitation is also related water quality. So we don't know how we are going to achieve that one. So same as the water scarcity, overall water scarcity. So if you see the per capita water, demand is increasing, but supply is becoming constrained. So because of that, we don't know how we are going. And the important aspect of water is like just to give you, like, you might have heard, like, okay, if you see the global water availability, so 97% is like ocean salt water, and 3% remaining 3% is most in the ice cap, like over 2%.
Right.
And then we have a tiny amount, less than 1%, even is only available as a fresh water. That means water underground and on the surface water. Yeah. So that means we have a very limited water, but in terms of figure, that's also not very bad. I mean, if you see like how much water, the first thing we have to think about is we are basically globally, we are using about 4,600 square kilometer. It's a huge amount. So billion, you can say 4,600 billion cubic meter water. We are this global use, right? And we are expecting that this will increase by 2050, more than like over 5 to 6,000 billion cubic meter. So this is based on the article on the Nature. But if you see like the tiny percent of the fresh water that I mentioned, we have over, like, for example, 30,000 billion cubic meter of fresh water in Asia, in wetland, lakes, reservoir, and river. Okay. So same amount. So if we say groundwater, Asia has over 7 million billion. Yeah. So that means we have a huge amount. So the issue that we have to clarify is that it's not about how much water is there in the planet or fresh water is available. It's more about the capacity. So if you say like just for convenience, like over 100,000 like cubic meter of water may be available, but we are just using like hardly 4,000, more than 4,000, and in a few years time it will reach like 5,000, yeah, 5 to 6,000. So what is the logic? I mean, there is a lot of water, but the point here, the most important point here is it's about the capacity. So first, water is not available in a right place and in right quantity.
Okay.
That's first thing. And second is even if it is physically, what that means is we have a term about physical and economic water scarcity. So physical means that's a water that is really available. Like, for example, probably in our working place, if you need water, you just open the tap. Yeah. Right. Very easy. But if you go to some like a village area, a person has to walk for hours to just get that much amount of water. So that means there is a very huge discrepancy on this. So what we are talking about is it's not the physical scarcity about water. It's more about our capacity to use that water in a sustainable manner. So that means we have to take care about drinking water, sanitation, industry, agriculture, and also ecosystem services, while also not polluting the water. So these are the things we are talking about.
Okay, very interesting. So so what you're saying is that we have, like, even if less than 1% of the world's water is actually fresh water that we can use, the issue is not that it's less than 1%, but that we're not using the water in an effective manner, or we're underutilizing the water. I'm still kind of struggling with that. Yeah.
Okay. It's not about we are not underusing it.
Okay.
It's more about like water is there, but water is available, but it is not accessible. That's what I mean. So that means the whole question is how you assess the water that is in a more cost-effective and sustainable manner.
Okay.
That's a challenge.
Right. Okay, so how is the world accessing this water? I mean, you said groundwater is one. I mean, is that sustainable?
That is also a relative thing.
Okay.
In many areas, we are living in a water stress condition. That means we are in a water storage shortage area. Means water shortage area means where you don't have water itself. Water stress means in a way that you are using your water needs are way beyond what is available. So, and because if you want to, for example, the farmers growing in a part of India is the largest user of groundwater. And also, like, for example, North China. And in the past, you see even the metro cities like Osaka, Tokyo, and even Bangkok, they were using groundwater so much that it's in a very serious situation. So Tokyo, Osaka, or Bangkok, they have seen land subsidence because of the over extraction of water. So the problem is we are concentrating water use in those areas where there is not much water to sustain us. Or we are living in areas where there are not much water available.
Just in proximity, right?
So because of that, we are using water in a particular location. So that means naturally you are overusing as the population grows, economies grows, and you rely on the same resource. That's an obvious consequence, right?
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
This is probably a really basic question, but how renewable or how replenishable, I guess, is groundwater? I can understand that you can overuse groundwater and you're going to run out, but is groundwater replenishing at a certain rate? And is there some rate that you can use groundwater at that you'll maintain a level and you won't be running out? Or is groundwater, is it something that takes thousands of years to kind of accumulate? I've always wondered that.
Okay, yeah, this is a very interesting question. Actually, IGES, when we started we have a water team, and our primary focus was groundwater in the early days. Even now, till date, IGES is being followed as one of the institute working on groundwater, though we are not that much focusing. So groundwater is a very, I think, interesting resource. So first is it's invisible. We say even invisible resource. That means you can't see what is happening going underground, yeah? And with the question of this replenishment, we have a concept called sustainable water use. That means groundwater get recharged basically from the precipitation, rainfall. So if you go in a Arab country like Libya and other, so they have water storage in groundwater. It's not a problem yet, but point is there are not much precipitation. So we say that is a fossil groundwater, which are not recharged, but they are still available. And I think countries in the dry areas, they are using such kind of fossil groundwater, and they have a less chances of being replenished. But in other heavy rain areas, especially even monsoon area, even in Japan, there is a high chance of being replenishment. And in fact, because in Japan, after this land subsidence, the government control groundwater so much. For example, municipality like Tokyo, the water level are rising so fast, so much that now they have a issue maybe it's water is coming to subway. So it's it's more about a balancing act. So it depends on we say hydrogeology. Some porous hydrogeology, it happens very fast. So I even heard one of our groundwater expert, I think the person visited that area and there was a quick rainfall, a frequent rainfall. And she was saying okay, the groundwater recharge was so fast. After some time, they can see the water level immediately rising. But in some area, the percolation rate are so slow. For example, if we go, for example, in hard rock aquifer, there are we say preferential flow or something like that. So the rate of recharge is relatively small. So it depends, yeah, in a short way.
It's really interesting.
So percolation, just to define that, that's when water goes through soil.
Soil and goes underground.
Okay.
And groundwater is not just it's always staying underground. Groundwater has we say recharge, storage, and discharge.
Okay.
So discharge. So for example, in winter months when you have not so much rainfall, when not you are in a dry season, you can still see the river flowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
River and wetlands. So we say that's base flow. That's actually a groundwater discharge in most of the cases. It's coming from groundwater.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a kind of connected system.
Mm-hmm.
And just to give you one idea, I think I can touch later on this IWRM. For example, in Japan, there is a law about a water cycle. Key point of this water cycle law is it consider is groundwater, surface water as a whole as a one system rather than separate system because they are connected.
Did you say IIIM?
IWRM, so that's
Oh, okay.
Integrated Water Resource Management.
Integrated Water Resource Management. Okay. Yeah.
Definitely, we want to talk about integrated water resource management, just kind of setting the scene a bit more with respect to SDG6. Can you kind of illustrate for us why, I mean, of course, water, we use it every day, you know, as individuals, but in a water stress situation, what does that really look like? Like, what does a person living in a water stress situation have to go through?
Okay, yeah, that's a very important question. And so when we say when people are living on a water scarce, there is a concept about, I don't know if you know, there's human rights of water.
Mm-hmm.
So that human rights of water means says like it's a human right that a person should be able to use a certain amount of water
Mm-hmm.
for his sustenance. So that's at the individual level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And next is another about it's when we say about farming, like farmers, it's this condition means that they don't have enough water to grow the crops.
Mm-hmm.
So that means crops need water and it's lose water through the process called transpiration. Mm-hmm. So if the water demand, available water is less than the transpiration requirement, then we can see this area is also a kind of water scarce condition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's but when you see in the practical sense, what does that mean for me or anybody? So just remember, imagine a situation where you use everyday water, right? And you open when you brush your teeth or when you do your kitchen, you open the tap and usually sometime because of our habit, we keep the tap lid open, right? But when you see that, you are actually a lot of water is simply wasted without being used.
Mm-hmm.
And that amount of water is a kind of life or death in a situation. The amount that you waste, unknowingly or knowingly, that's kind of could be a life and death situation in a people living in a very remote location where you cannot have enough water for drinking. Imagine you have enough water for drinking. Maybe you can't have water for hygiene, like washing clothes, cleaning everything. And then maybe even if you go a little further, for example, in case of Nepal, because of this water scarcity and partly due to climate change, because of less rainfall, people are not raising animals because they can't supply water because animals need a little bit higher amount of water, yeah? So maybe we can sustain about maybe 20 liter, even if 20 liter, even I have seen even people saying we have a 2 to 3 liters water a day. And then sometimes they are really worried if some guests come to the house. So how to asking water. So people are living in such a dire situation, yeah? So that's one dimension of water scarcity. But another dimension is what if that water is not so clean with microbes, everything?
Right.
So that is another scenario, you know?
Sure.
And if you say it's not just about you need a drinking water is for living and health, but you need for hygiene and for your you need a livestock, right? You have to because that's your source of income. And when you go a little bit to grow the crops, you need slightly more amount of water. So if you can't have enough water for growing crops, that means also you are in a very water stressed condition because it affects your livelihood.
So I mean, I'm just thinking the goal is about water and sanitation. So surely these two things are related, right?
Yes.
And you just talked about water scarcity, not having enough water that is clean, safe to drink, safe to use is an issue. So I'm just now wondering, is that related to sanitation. So if the water is available, I guess in a water stress situation, you will have to choose between whether to use that water to drink or to cook or, I guess to survive versus to stay clean or, to dispose of waste properly. So I guess that's one other element, right?
Yes, I mean, it depends on the situation. Like, if a person is thirsty, if there is a water, so the person usually don't care it's clean or not clean because he's thirsty.
Right.
So he need to drink. So if he has he's a health conscious, maybe he will think about boiling, or he may be thinking about some doing filtration. But in a lot of underprivileged condition, like slums or even in a very remote rural area, people don't have that much even of awareness. So, I mean, usually situation dictates. So, but these are very closely linked, So imagine if you are why we say sanitation and water is simply because if you are like living in a house and you are relying on water source nearby, natural water source. So if your sanitation system is not good, you are likely to catch kind of a I maybe let me give you a very interesting example from our work in Tonle Sap Lake in Cambodia.
Okay.
And we did a work on the lake. There is a floating houses. That means people are living in houses. It's a permanent, usually floating on the lake.
Okay.
And you can imagine people can't get water you can't supply water through pipe, yeah?
Sure.
So people usually use the lake. And once you do toilet or everything, where are you going to throw the water? So same, you can't seem, so you will just throw there. So there is a cycle, of contamination use. And point is, what we found was not just because of drinking. People are usually drinking a better water there because they are purchasing like clean water. Maybe somebody supply like drinking water. But we saw that something like contact-based contamination means you can't live without touching water in that situation, right? So that means when you are going to eat, it's not so practical to wash your hand with soap water all the time. So you are eating food with your bare hand, maybe contaminated with lake water. So these are very complex issues, yeah? And demands situation-based kind of solution.
Right. Okay, so that's really scary. Just thinking about it. I'm scared for these people, and it's very hard to imagine living like that. But I guess you've done a lot of work on Tonle Sap Lake as well as other places, and you've also done a lot of work on integrated water resource management, which you mentioned earlier. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that is? Are those approaches being applied to Tonle Sap Lake or?
Okay, yes. I mean, when you just see integrated water resource management, I mean, the first word and the last letter, first and last, integrated and management, right? So that means it calls that water are so much connected. That means, just to give you example, water is related with climate change and disaster, right? It's obvious. Because water is also related with ecosystem. So you have rivers and lakes, like that kind of thing, and there are a lot of biota living, yeah? And water is also about, for example, human rights, I already explained. And water is also about food. So food production need water. Water is also about energy. Energy needs water. And if you see, there's a concept called water footprint. If you do a careful analysis, you can actually link everything that we do with some level of water footprint. So that's kind of say like the connectedness with water. To say in a more little clearer terms, so for example, if a city decides to build a water supply system, that means it's good because they have to draw water from somewhere. So what are the implications of that? So every activity we do, there are some implication that's connected with water. So which say like we need to have a mechanism where we take into account all these interlinkages. So even like if we go a little bit broader, there is even like a concept like transboundary waters, which means a water in one country connected to another country. So maybe you see Mekong River, it's passed through several countries, right? From China till Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
So that also needs some kind of coordination. So even if you say not a country, between prefecture.
Mm-hmm.
So I was for example, like in Fukushima.
Mm-hmm.
There is a river called Abukuma River. It passes through, I think, Fukushima and then go to next Miyagi.
Mm-hmm.
So there is also the issue, like, the river water sources being shared. And there are also groundwater, transboundary groundwater being shared by multiple countries. So if one country keep on using a lot of water, then it's going to impact another country relying on same water source. And another example is a lake for example, in Kenya. So you see Lake of Victoria, it's shared by Uganda, Kenya, and some other countries, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have this kind of systems, so which also demands integrated approach. So integrated approach itself is a rather broad concept, and it comprises of not just physical aspect, social aspect, economic aspect, environmental aspect, and human right aspect, and you can count on. So this is what the overall idea about the basic point is. Water is there. The water that we can access in a given moment or a given place is limited, and we need to, in order to balance the water competing uses, we say, that means we need to see the connections. And the connection depends on what is important in a given context. So now there is a new concept called, maybe you have heard about water, food, energy nexus.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
And some people even say water, food, energy, climate nexus. Somebody say water, food, energy, soil nexus.
Okay, there's a lot.
So it depends. It depends on the lot of connection. But just give me, let's talk about why we are talking about this water, food, and energy nexus. Because this is simply because water use, these three sectors are the major sectors utilizing water, and more water is used for like a coal power plant, for example, to cool the generators, the electricity generator. So it consumes the water, and there are some that's for energy. Also, there are hydropower, which you make a dam. So it also affects the ecosystem, and there are concerns, right? But hydropower dam water is eventually released. It's not consumptive. And agriculture is obvious, So if you are in a situation where there is energy taking the water, agriculture will taking the water, and city, you have a need water for cities and settlements. That means, and also you not to forget, you also need beautiful rivers and the lakes. So if you see, that's a nexus. So how we manage. So everything is about management. So we need to manage water resource in a way that we will minimize the trade-off and enhance the efficiency, synergy. So such kind of value, how you increase the value of water. So you can say economic value. What is the economic value, social value, environmental value? So it goes on. So that's overall concept. So let me just go back to SDG. It's a bit strange in SDG is that we have the main reason, because of this legacy reason of MDG legacy, that the drinking water, sustainable water use, and sanitation became one of the main title. But if we combine all these targets there, so ultimately I would say it's more like the goal of integrated water resource management, because that's how you have to start. And one of my work, what I have been stressing is that if we were to make a good progress on SDG, we have to go through the integrated water resource management approach. It's not just, for the sake of integrated water resource management is a wonderful concept we have to do. It's not because of that. The main reason is that one is a history. So this integrated water resource management started during 1970s. So
Okay.
from that time till date, we have made a lot of progress on it in terms of setting up institutions, setting up process, setting up legal framework. So to give you example, like we have this Mekong River Commission. So
Yeah.
that's
In Southeast Asia,
yeah,
right?
yes. So and we have a lot of river basin organization. So river basin organization or lake basin organization, they basically are built on this. The main idea is to promote integrated water resource management. So we have that kind of already set system, and we are already following that for a long time. And now, if we were to implement all the targets, then that means it's logical entry point, to just let's build on what is already there. But one good thing is also happening. I don't want to be just critical all the time. But I mean, for example, UN Water has been reviewing the progress on this integrated water resource management. And we do see a lot of progress being made by the countries. And even water management projects, when they are formulated, they are often even designed with the view of integrated water resource management. The only point is whether we are being able to actually realize that on the ground. If we can visualize integrated water resource management on the ground or not, that's a big question. And we need to give a more focus on that.
I guess like, you were talking about different values, adding different values of water and really appreciating the resource that we have and, try to use it in a holistic manner. Just taking like the Mekong River example, I can imagine a situation where upstream countries want to do something and then downstream countries don't want to do that, right? Or they
Yes,
have
yes.
problems with it. So is like integrated water resource management also about consensus building?
So absolutely, I mean, integrated water resource management means partnership and consensus.
Okay.
It's about consensus and cooperation, participation. These are one of the important pillars of integrated water resource management. And even in the case of Mekong River Basin, it is considered one of the good example, especially when we say lower Mekong Basin. Mekong River Commission is more about lower Mekong Basin, like Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and Laos. I think main this country, and the upstream partner countries are like Myanmar and China. And there are like issues like, for example, the construction of cascade of dams in
Right.
China and then Laos. But that is directly affecting the water flow to this very unique ecosystem of Tonle Sap Lake. So Tonle Sap Lake is like a very unique wetland system where in the summer, the flow from the Mekong River rivers to and fill the lake, increasing several fold in size. And then in the dry season, the water is gradually released. But when you make a dam upstream, so that flow is disrupted. Right. And there are issues about fish migration. So those kind of problems are there. And that's the main reason why like country like Vietnam and Cambodia, we are at the bottom, they are not so happy with this. And they are asking cooperation or transparency from like countries like Laos or China. So Laos is a developing country, and hydropower is their water resource is their one of main resource. So from countries' perspective, constructing hydropower makes economic sense because it's very critical for their development. So what is not happening is that we are talking about unilateral approach. So somebody who is very much affectionate to ecosystem and lake management and other thing, they will outrightly say, okay, Laos should not build a dam. But nobody is saying, okay, how we can have a common ground to compensate Laos. So that because it's a lost opportunity. And that is a bit complex. So that's why we need this is also, we say IWRM is also about conflict resolution.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we need to listen to both sides' story. The IWRM is also becoming very important because of this climate change issue. So, for example, if you see even Mekong River and Ganges in the Himalayas, they are the source of, we say, water tower of supporting a large river basin like Indus, Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Mekong, right? And one of the dangers, even that's example in the Himalayan context, where because of melting ice, there is a future dire consequence how people are going to cope with the decreasing flow of the rivers. So, but another dimension is that linking with that, it's not just there. Maybe in Japan, like for example, you might have heard this year, Japan, like onion price was very high. Part of the reason is because there was a drought in less water in Hokkaido or onion growing region because not much rainfall. So that means the problem is the danger is slipping back. We have made a progress. How to sustain it? So that's a challenge. Yeah, climate change is coming as a challenge. So we have to also think about not just about okay, we have to reach the target, but also we have to say how we cope with the uncertainties.
Seems like the more you think about it, the more complicated and complex it seems to be. I come from a farming community in the United States, and even just in a local community that's dealing with irrigation on a river that's coming down from the mountains, conflicts arise between people who are upstream and people downstream. So when you're dealing with it on a country to country level and varying regulations between different countries, it seems tremendously complex. And
exactly, yes,
it's it's kind of mind-boggling to think about. I'm wondering, one of the things that's mentioned in the SDGs is the availability of wetlands and ecosystems that are crucial to maintaining, I think, clean water and things like that. I think often wetlands were seen as swampy areas that are not useful for agriculture and also can potentially have mosquitoes and crocodiles and whatever that we don't really want in our urban areas. And so people tended to want to get rid of them, and we're paying the price for that in the loss that we have and valuable role that they played as ecosystem services. How often do we not know what the right thing to do is, and how often is it that some people want to clear these things out that are very important, and maybe their economic interests win over the water interests?
I think this is a really important question, and that's also one of the biggest problem we are facing in the world. So, because water is also economic good, but water is economic good, but it's not like an expensive good in the terms of like production cost. So it's because it's from the nature. But if you don't have a water, it can directly affect your economy because your production will stop. Yeah. So that means for the people who wants to do economic activity like mining, there is an issue of mining, or maybe urban expansion, like what Bob say, you expand in an area that was lost ecosystem, and then now you complain about coming crocodiles and snake in your house, but actually that was their house, yeah. So and
true, yes.
That is always a big issue. So one, I want to give you example, like two example, like one, like a US, like I think the Kansas region, right? It's one of the food basket of US, and they use a lot of groundwater. And because there is a problem of over groundwater depletion, because some farmers can't agree, or some people are using. And I remember one documentary where the farmer was saying, he was actually crying, saying that, okay, now the groundwater is so depleted, maybe I can do, but my grandchildren cannot continue this job anymore because it will be unsustainable. So that's one example. And another example is we are doing things in a more like a stupid manner. So for example, in one of the South American area, what I heard is they are growing asparagus in a very water scarce season. So asparagus guzzles a lot of water. So it's up to us to decide whether it is the right thing to do there, why you have to grow asparagus in a situation where you end up using a lot of groundwater, which the system cannot sustain? Why don't you grow in a more suitable area? So that kind of conflicting situations are always there. So that's also that also brings, like we say, competition and cooperation. We say it has to go hand in hand. We have to deal. We have to win the competition with cooperation. So that's why we have this SDG, right? Why we want to do SDG is because we want to address the sustainability challenge. But one of the things that we often miss when we see SDG, so we see like a 17 SDG. So for me, 17 SDG means the number of increasing complexity to our sustainability. Point is, like water, it touches almost all SDG. We have done a study on that. You can check, you will easily find. And even if you don't want to read anything, just try to do a little bit brainstorming. The things will be very clear. The challenge is how we are going to reduce the number of these targets and goal by addressing the key issue first in a stepwise manner. That's how we, I think, can progress an SDG. And in a sense, SDG is not like a water SDG or food SDG or energy SDG. These are basically very much interconnected things. So once you do one thing, it is going to have an impact on other SDG. So that's also brings this integrated approach. And being water, I mean, that's a very good thing that water sector can offer, is this wonderful concept.
Thank you for listening to About Sustainability. Please subscribe at podcast.iges.jp or search for About Sustainability wherever you normally get your podcasts. If you've got feedback, you can review us on your podcast directory of choice or reach out on Twitter at IGES_EN. About Sustainability is produced by the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. Any views expressed during the podcast are those of the speaker at the time of recording and do not necessarily reflect the views of IGES. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. We don't take that lightly, and we hope you'll join us next time.